Connected. Hello everyone, how y'all doing today? Hope you're doing good, fine, and well. I am the Realist Philosopher, and this is the Realist Philosopher call-in show. However, Skype is turned off right now, so do not try to call in. So, somebody, and I know who, I recognize the number, tried to call me about a dozen times. I should let this person know that the number that's on the screen right now that you called is not my home number. It's a Skype number, okay? So it's a service that allows people to call Skype via their phone, and then I can use Skype like a phone then to call out people to people who are on their phone. So I can use my computer like a phone, okay? It's a great way to maintain my anonymity and to keep costs down. It's a very, very cheap way to communicate with the world. So please stop calling. I'm going to do about a half-hour lecture talk about a specific subject, and then I'll open up the phone line, okay? Not lines. Line. One line. This is a new show, okay? So you got to give me time to build an audience, so I need, quote-unquote, lines. And I'm planning on downloading a new app. Turns out that Skype has a application for broadcasters that allows multiple callers to be put on hold and such, and you can screen calls, stuff like that, but you need Windows 8. I have like Windows 7 Ultimate, and I used to think that's a great service, but yeah, I think Windows 7 is fine, but apparently it's not up to date enough. So I need at least Windows 8, so I got to find out how to get that in between doing everything else. I'm a little too busy these days, but I'll figure it out very soon here. And so people will be able to call in and, you know, more than just one, right? And so, but not yet. And don't try to call when the show is not going because I don't have Skype open, okay? So now that that's out of the way, last time on the show I wanted to talk about a specific subject, but I got into a conversation with a longtime fan who I'd never spoken to before, so it was very interesting and fun. Glad he called in. Just don't call me every day a dozen times or anything. You're wasting your time. It's a Skype phone number, okay? And what I wanted to talk about was virtue, okay? Because I think this is an misunderstood subject, and I think that people these days have either unrealistic expectations as to what they should want or what should be requirements for a mate or a friend, as opposed to, you know, just, ran into this guy at a bar, yeah, we had some drinks, and we hit it off, now he's my friend, or, oh, I bumped into this chick, she had a nice rack, and, you know, boy, did we really hit it off, and I banged the shit out of her that night, wow, yeah, she's so great, I'm in love. Okay, so I think that people don't have realistic criteria in regards to creating a stable relationship. I don't know too many people who met abroad, banged them, and then 5 years later were still together. It seems like these types of people have a really hard time creating long, stable, meaningful relationships, whether it be with a woman or a man or a woman in regards to having a friend. Okay, so whether it be friends or whether it be lovers, I think people really, for the most part, now I'm sure there's some of you out there who understand what's required, what you want, what you're looking for in a friend and in a life mate. But I think the majority of you don't. Because, you know, a lot of you grow up with single mommies. What the hell do they know? If they knew anything about how to find a good long-term stable relationship, they wouldn't be single mothers, right? So they can't teach you a goddamn thing. Daddy's gone because she's a cunt, and she had nothing that, you know, he found in any way, shape, or form virtuous, and he really didn't know what to look for either because he got with her. So, you know, a lot of clueless people, the blind leading the blind. You know, there's been too many degrees of separation between people who knew this stuff and the people now who don't. So, you know, a lot of brainwashing, a lot of indoctrination, a lot of broken families because of bad ideas like feminism that broke the links between the people who knew. And now you get the people who don't. And they're running around like chickens with their fucking heads cut off. They don't know how to find good people. They don't know how to find good friends. They don't know how to find good life mates. The knowledge is seemingly gone, at least for them. Well, that's why I'm here. Well, that's why philosophers exist, right? to keep this knowledge alive, to help people find the truth. And that's why I'm here. So let me explain to you, first of all, how you find a good friend. And many of the things that you'll look for in a good friend will be the same for a good life partner. And also the way that you go about finding, as far as the criteria, the methodology with which you will use to find a life mate and a friend are exactly the same. Okay? So it's all about virtue. All right? Now this is the key word. Virtue. Now what is virtue? And what's the difference between a trait and a virtue? Now, I want to get into that. I'm very big about defining one's terms. So what's a virtue? Well, a virtue is a positive characteristic about somebody that they have endeavored, meaning positive. They've made real efforts to develop these characteristics of self to a point where you could define them as such. For example, let's say kindness, okay? So kindness doesn't, just happen, right? It's something that's learned. It's something that is nurtured. It's something that grows over time. It's something that people learn as a positive attribute, something that will help them in their daily lives. But at the same time, they'll also learn to temper that kindness, because if they're too kind, they can be taken advantage of. So they are characteristics of self that come about through nurturing and understanding the positives, the goods that they will bring about in your life. They're about self-development, recognizing those things that will best serve you in your life in a positive manner, that you have made real steps to develop within you. It's not just something that you had. Oh, blonde hair. Ooh. That's not a virtue. Oh, beauty. No, that's not a virtue. Beauty is not a virtue. It's not something you're born with, right? It's something that you actively pursue and develop over a lifetime, because you recognize the value and you value these characteristics of self. So those are virtues, okay? They're not traits. They're things that people work to develop over time about themselves. And it's very important that you understand what virtue is and how to recognize it, okay? And what is not virtue? Well, intelligence, okay? Intelligence is not really a virtue, okay? He's smart. Well, high IQ people, generally speaking, don't have a lot of trouble in life compared to non-high. I mean, that's generally speaking. Of course, you have some high IQ people that don't manage to find their way in life. They've had difficulties. Maybe they had a bad upbringing, regardless. But they have a hell of a lot more options than people with lower IQs. And so, if they don't have some kind of impediments early on, it's not too hard for them to essentially, find their way in the world in regards to making a living and such. Intelligence is not a virtue, right? It's something you're born with, just like physical appearance. It's not something you work to acquire. Virtues are things that you have worked to acquire over a lifetime, okay? So, your height, not a virtue. So women running around saying, oh, I need a man that's at least 6 feet tall, right? So this is 6 feet, and if you're 5'11", this is how she sees you. You're down here. You can't see my hand. She sees you as very, very short if you're not at least 6 feet. You're 1 inch shy. Oh, my God, he's a midget. So that's not a virtue, right? And so women are looking for the wrong things in men. Weight, intelligence, bust size, skin color, cock size. None of these are virtues. These are just character traits that come about purely by accident of genetics. There's nothing virtuous about these things, okay? Nothing whatsoever. And if you try to base a relationship on these things, well, guess what? Whether it be a friendship or whether it be a relationship that's deeper, like a pair bond, which seems to be impossible these days because of all the women riding the cock carousel, it's not going to work. It's not going to last. Excuse me. I've got a bit of sniffles. Been working myself a lot, adding in these extra hours of advertising my live stream, doing the live stream, business work. I'm exhausted. I'm an old guy. What do you want? See all the white hair? I'm older than I look, and I think I look pretty old. But anyway, so what are virtues, right? We know what are not virtues. Traits. Whoop-de-fucking-doo-dah. Ooh, he got blue eyes. Oh, he's so pretty. You can't base a relationship on that, right? So why are virtues important? Well, because those are the things that we found throughout history make a stable foundation for a relationship. So let's talk about, for example, honesty, right? The reason that virtues are important is because if they are antithetical to each other, if you're a liar and I'm honest, but we're not too compatible, right? And of course, this is the same kind of thing that applies on a cultural level, right? I mean, if your virtue is, you stole a Snickers bar from my store, I'm going to whack your fucking head off. And my virtues are, that's wrong, that's evil, you're a murderer. I don't think we're going to be having lunch together anytime soon, let alone living together and having kids together and having a long, meaningful, stable life. Okay. Virtue's very important, right? All right, they're the traits about us that make us who we are. Combinatively speaking, they all together are what we are. They interact with each other. They're very important. They are who and what we are. They're the things we value. They're the things that give us value and quality in this world. And they call to others. That's why like attracts like, right? But oftentimes people ignore these things in favor of those things which don't matter, like women looking for tall men and men looking for chicks that look a specific way and all that. Of course, that's for men, that's really a biological matter. Women, insofar as looking for looks and height and, you know, all these spurious things, that's not in their genetic makeup. That's not in any way, shape, or form biological in nature. That actually goes against women's makeup, generally speaking. And if you just go back 50, 60 years, women looked for virtue in men and they look for very specific virtues, right? Like responsibility. Being a responsible person, that's a virtue. Taking responsibility for your actions, for your mistakes. Being responsible, okay? That's a virtue, and that's what they looked for, because those virtues would mean that he would be a stable provider. Now that they've got the state and big daddy government, you know, I don't need a man. You do. It's just you're getting the money indirectly, so you don't have to tolerate his crap, what you call his crap, right? How nice for you. Meanwhile, society dies, and you know, the culture dies, and we're not having enough kids to replace, you know, the people that you know, are dying off. But anyway, so let's go over a list of what I think are the main virtues. I mean, they're important virtues for me, and they're kind of the biggies, right? So kindness, I think kindness is important. I think that it's important to be kind. I've met too many nasty cold cunts who associate being cold with strength. It's very interesting that women have this caricature in their mind, just as an aside, they have this caricature in their mind of what they believe men to be like, which is nothing like what men are actually like. And of course, many of them were raised by single mothers as well, who had a lot of man hate because they had a mommy who had a lot of man hate, and they had a mommy. The mommy had a mommy who was a freaking hippie who had been taught that you don't want to be a housewife. Being a housewife is oppressive and evil. But my mother looks very happy. She's always says she's happy. She's lying. She's got internalized misogyny, right? False mind, yeah, right? False consciousness. She's not aware that she's being oppressed, but she's being oppressed. Oh, okay, I don't want to get into that situation. So these women really, you know, they don't know what men are like. They've got this caricature, I need to be cold and emotionless. I need to be cruel and nasty. That means I'm strong, right? Because men are strong, and I want to be just like a man. Yeah. And I want men to be just like me, so I don't have to, in any way, shape, or form, compete with them on a level playing field, right? So turn the men into women and turn the women into men. Yeah, okay. It's amazing. If masculinity is so toxic, why do women want to be more like men? But, yeah, they don't have a clue. They don't have a freaking clue. So kindness is very important. Yeah, absolutely. Compassion. I mean, yeah, compassion is important to a certain extent, right? But usually with women, it kind of goes overboard. I mean, let's be honest here. Women are generally speaking slaves to their emotions. We all know that. And you women out there watching, come on, you know it too. Don't bullshit us. Don't bullshit yourself. You know that you're a slave to your emotions, right? And so things used to be that men and women helped balance each other out, right? I mean, women were too emotional, but they had the man's logic and critical thinking to kind of balance out their emotionality. Now, you don't really have that. Women are encouraged to embrace feelings over facts, even though, what exactly do you have feelings about? To have feelings, there has to be a thing that you're feeling about. What if that thing is not true? See, this is where facts are important, but if you don't reach a point where you realize that to have feelings about something, you first have to know if it's true or not, well, then I don't want anything to do with you, because you're living in a world of solipsism. You're living in a world of relativism, idealism. I don't want to deal with any of that shit. So, yeah, compassion, but tempered with common sense. Oh, boy. There's not too much of that left anymore in men, let alone women. But these are things that I value. These are things that I consider to be virtues, because guess what? They're virtues in me as well. One of the things that you're going to realize about what attracts us to other people is, generally speaking, we're going to be attracted to the things in them that exist within us. Right? So if you're a fucked up, dysfunctional person, you're more likely to attract fucked up, dysfunctional people. Especially, you might not be a fucked up, dysfunctional person to the extent of the person you attract. But, I mean, for example, you could have somebody that's a good guy, great guy, but he's lacking in self-knowledge, and he's dysfunctional in the fact that, you know, he might be insecure, and so he draws a psycho broad, and he's so insecure that, you know, he puts up with her shit and lets himself get taken advantage of. Lots of situations like that. But when those kind of situations happen, when you've got an okay guy but a crazy broad, generally speaking, that kind of pairing happens because the guy, and the woman, of course, too, because if she had what I'm going to talk about next, she wouldn't be a crazy, fucked up broad, or at least she would have tried to do something about it. They don't have self-knowledge. Okay? So self-knowledge is very important. So if you don't know who you are, then you don't know the virtues that you value, and hence you're not going to be consciously aware enough of your own virtues to know what to look for in other people, or to be correctly attracted. And yes, there is such a thing as being correctly attracted. If you don't know who you are, if you don't know yourself, then you're going to be attracted to the wrong things in other people, when what you really are supposed to be attracted to is virtue. And you would be attracted to the virtues in others if you knew what your own virtues were. And a lot of the times we are attracted to virtues in others that we don't recognize in ourselves, but they do exist. And on a fundamental level, we recognize them in others. But we would be able to recognize them with a much greater level of clarity if we had a higher level of self-knowledge. I know what all my virtues are, and I know what all my flaws are too. I know myself inside and freaking out. Most people don't. Most people don't. And that's part of what philosophy is about. Not only finding the truth about the world, but about yourself. So, and some of these virtues, I have to admit, they're things that I value. There might be things that you value which are different, but these are, generally speaking, the kind of virtues that, you know, functional, normal people all value. Like, for example, realism and practicality. Somebody who lives in the real world. Somebody who's a realist. Somebody who isn't a pie-in-the-sky, meathead, pinhead moron, you know, with their head always in the fucking clouds and never living in the here and now. Now, if that's how you are, you're likely to be attracted to somebody just like that, and you can both live your pie-in-the-sky, yuppie, hippie existence, and you can go travel to Morocco or ride around on your fucking bikes until somebody from ISIS pulls over, runs you over, and chops your fucking head off. Okay, you can do that. All right. But for me, I value realism. And I value people that are practical. Practicality is important, right? Practical person isn't going to, you know, engage in activities that detract from their quality of life, that harm them. They're not going to go out and spend all their money on a fucking handbag and then they can't pay their rent, right? Empathy. Now, I think empathy is very important. I have oodles and oodles of empathy, and I guarantee you I have more fucking empathy than the vast majority of waymen out there. Now, my empathy is very focused, and it's very disciplined, and it's something that I can invoke and revoke at will, okay? It's part of how I solve problems. It's part of how I do thought exercises. It's part of how I work through logic chains and use deductive, reductive reasoning. Empathy is important, in my opinion. You have to be able to put yourself in the shoes of other people and understand their point of view. Now, I mean, you don't actually have to be able to do that, but if you want to be able to relate to others in any meaningful way, it's kind of important. And of course, I'm not going to say we all have empathy, because there's psychopaths, sociopaths out there, and they have, no empathy. A lot of them are just good at acting, but they don't have that capacity. But the majority of people do, to a certain extent, some more than others. And believe it or not, women don't have very much empathy. That's a myth spread by feminist propaganda, okay? Fuck. Nothing worse than lukewarm coffee. God damn it. And honesty. And by the way, I'm a very honest person. Sometimes too honest. Sometimes too honest, maybe to my own detriment. I have to be a little more prudent. That's something I need to work on, prudence, yes. Nobody's perfect. But I think honesty is important, right? Be honest even if it leads to your death. Blah, blah, yeah, the old fucking knight's oath. I don't necessarily believe in that, right? You have to be prudent. You have to, exercise honesty in a very calculating way. You can't be too honest, right? I mean, you could really do yourself harm, and that's not too smart. But I think honesty is important. But I do think it's also important to be conscious of the feelings of others and to essentially be aware of what might or might not hurt another person's feelings. Now, I know if you followed my show for any period of time, you know that I don't really give much of a fuck about what people think or feel on this show anyway. But if I have people in my life, friends, I don't really have any family left, they're all fucking dead, bunch of blobs that ate too much fucking fatty, greasy fucking Italian food, even though they're not fucking Italian. So they killed themselves early, right? But, I have friends, and these are people that I value in my life. So, of course, I'm going to respect boundaries. Of course, I'm going to be a little more courteous, a lot more courteous, depending on how good a friend they are. But I'm definitely going to be prudent. I'm definitely going to be conscious and aware of what effect too much honesty could have, So critical thinking, right? I think that's important. It's an important practice to be able to think critically and analyze the effect that one's words might have on others. That's, a lot of that has to do with being empathetic. And it's an important trait to me. I think it's a very important trait. Real empathy, not the phony empathy that most women these days practice, right? Where they just say they have empathy, but they're just empathizing with other women and nobody else. Self-discipline and a work ethic. I think self-discipline is something that's highly underrated. Not enough people practice it, right? Not enough people practice self-discipline, self-control, having a good temperament, right? I mean, too many women, too many people in general, I think these days are ruled by their emotions. I mean, you got that case at Berkeley, or that nut job 28-year-old guy, I don't remember his name, beat the crap out of that poor kid because he had a MAGA hat on. He's going to jail now, I hope. But, he just freaked out. You got a MAGA hat. I have free reign to beat the crap out of you and, castigate you in public. And nobody's going to stop me because I am promoting the politically correct narrative. And he just lost it. No self-control at all. He's not very virtuous, by the way. But hey, ladies, if any of you out there like guys that will beat you up, that's the guy to get with, right? You got a lot of wacko broads out there that send fucking letters to serial killers in prison and shit. Yeah, they really don't. Those chicks don't understand virtue. Not at all. You're looking for the wrong qualities, ladies. Honor, right? Be honorable. Don't do to others what you would want done to you, right? Live an honorable life. Live your life in a way that you can respect yourself. Okay, I think that's very important. And having a strong moral foundation, not just this bullshit morality where people get on fucking soapboxes and run around preaching about the current political narrative and how if you don't adhere to that, you're an evil, racist, Islamophobe, homophobic person. Boy. Coffee gives me gas, but I made this cup especially weak, so hopefully it doesn't kick in and have me belching the whole fucking time. So I think understanding the source of morality, which is well-being, and have a good understanding of morals and ethics, that's not something that comes overnight, okay? I mean, small children have a very, very basic understanding of things like fairness, but complex moral ideas and principles, those take a long time to develop. And a lot of people don't have a very good understanding of what their moral code even is or what constitutes morality. So something I value as a virtue is someone who has a well-developed sense of morality, who at the very least understands what the golden rule is. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. These are the things I value. And loyalty. I mean, come on. How many of us out there, how many of you out there have had a friend that the moment things got bad for you, especially like when you were a kid, like this really pissed me off. Like I would have friends, right? And then you did something or you said something that went against the narrative, the grain. We had those even fucking 35, 40 years ago. And all your friends would suddenly, poof, vanish because you said something or did something that was maybe a little odd or maybe went against the, the PC narrative or whatever. How often can you really count on people to be loyal? How often can you count on people to remain loyal even when it's difficult? I mean, it's easy to be loyal when life is easy and everyone approves of your choices and there's no adversity and there's no pushback. But, you know, when the going gets tough, the tough, they stick around. And they're loyal, and meanwhile, the rest, you know, you'll find out who your real friends are when times get hard. And real friends will stick by you, okay? And so will real life partners. Even if things are hard, that's why those old marriage vows, which nobody sticks to anymore because they're incentivized not to, meaning women are incentivized not to, because they divorce you, they'll get all your shit, so why are they going to stick around? Love, cherish, honor, obey, till death do us part, through good times and bad hardship. Oh, no. Not anymore. Things get hard. I just pack up and leave. I get everything. Yeah. That's not loyalty, okay? Yeah. So it's too easy to be disloyal these days, right? And too many people don't understand what a quality loyalty is. I mean, how much it says about your character if you remain loyal. And I'm big about loyalty, man. I mean, if I'm a friend, it doesn't matter what you're going through. I'm going to be there for you thick and thin. It doesn't matter how difficult things might be. It can't put too much of a strain on my life, right? I mean, let's be reasonable, right? You can't expect to be sleeping in my fucking house if you're... Oh, but maybe, I don't know. It depends on how good a friend you are, right? And what happened. I mean, if your house fucking burnt down or something, it's no fault of your own. Yeah, I'd probably let you sleep on my fucking couch or something. But if you burnt your own house down because you got drunk and you were smoking and, you know, you burnt it down because you're a dumb fucking drunk who passed out drunk with a cigarette in your mouth, I'm going to be less likely to want to house you, especially if you're a fucking drunk, right? Loyalty, of course, has its limits, but that's one of the virtues I value, and courage, right? Because it's not easy to be honest. It's not easy to be loyal. It's not easy to be honorable in this world. And sometimes it takes real courage to stand up to the forces that be who may be telling you to do the exact opposite because it's good for them. Probably bad for you, but your life will be easier. Yeah, just because something's easy doesn't necessarily mean it's good, okay? But people oftentimes take the easy way out, right? They get divorced because things get hard when their life would have been much better if they had stayed and worked out their problems. But it's easier just to leave, right? It would take more courage to stay and work through your problems and face your fears and solve the issues that you had in your marriage. But, it's easier to go, right? The coward's way is the way of ease. But the courageous person, you know, they don't necessarily give up and quit, right? So I think courage is very important. Not to mention grace, right? How well do you handle yourself? How do you carry yourself in life, right? Are you constantly bitching and moaning? Woe is me! Yeah, you're graceless. Okay. Weather the storms with poise. Have grace. Don't be a fucking whiny baby pussy, all right? People will respect you far more if you have grace. Too many women lack that, right? Too many people in general like that. Running around, professional activists, bitching and moaning about things that only exist in a decadent first world country. Meanwhile, people in fucking Zimbabwe and Uganda, they're fucking digging around in the dirt 16 hours a day, hoping to find a little nugget of gold that they won't get to keep, by the way. Ingesting all these nasty chemicals that are used to get that fucking gold, and they're going to be dead by the age of 20. You think they're worrying about this bullshit? Do I have equality? The patriarchy! Get the fuck out of here. Have some fucking grace. Jesus Christ. Life is hard. Deal with it. Accept it for what it is. Don't constantly be moaning and groaning and bitching about your horrible lot in life, which is total crap. You have it easy. You're all privileged. Talk about male privilege. Get the fuck out of here. If men were so privileged, and there was this fucking patriarchy that you women are constantly bitching and moaning about, you wouldn't be able to bitch and moan about it. The patriarchy wouldn't let you, you idiots. Oh, boy, oh, boy, oh, boy. You know, I think self-respect is important. All right? I mean, self-respect is very important. I mean, if you don't like yourself, if you don't take care of yourself, how can you expect other people to like you, or even want to take care of you, or even deal with you, right? I mean, like fat people. Come on. What about that Tess Holiday broad, right? Sitting there in bed, eating a whole goddamn cake with a big fucking tub of ice cream. Yeah, she got a lot of self-respect. Heart's gonna explode before she's fucking 40. Yeah, but body positivity's great. No self-respect. No self-respecting person would treat themselves that way. Jesus Christ. Behemoth. Good Lord. Have some self-respect. Have some dignity. Right? What kind of dignified person would put on a fucking bathing suit when they weigh 400 pounds and walk around as if they should have grace and they shouldn't have any shame, and look at me, I'm so great and wonderful, I'm going to show off my big fat belly and my gigantic saggy tits that are bigger than my head. Are you kidding? Get the fuck out of here. It's crazy, right? The world that we live in. No dignity, no grace, no self-respect. But I'm supposed to respect you anyway, even though you haven't earned my respect. The way you treat yourself screams to the world, don't respect me. But, of course, it's the new normal. Up is down, left is right. Lack of self-respect means you should be respected, right? I don't have to do all the hard work to respect myself. I'm just going to lay that off on everybody else. Yeah, typical socialist thinking, right? I don't want to have to make a living and work for myself. Everybody else should do the work for me. Yeah. Including myself. They should respect me even though I don't respect myself. Yeah. See the lack of virtue in the world? No wonder it's so hard to see it these days. It's hardly there in anybody. That being said, even with the lack of virtue existing in the world, yeah, there's some needles in the haystack. There are some people that have actual virtues. They just stumbled upon the right formula, acquired them by accident without even knowing it, living upright lives without even thinking about it. They acquired and developed virtue. So such people exist. But the first thing you have to do before you're even able to identify these people, let alone form relationships, form bonds with them, is know thyself. Know thyself. It's really that simple, because what love is, in essence, it's about the love we have for ourselves. We value the virtues in others that we possess within ourselves. So, love, in essence, is one of the most selfish acts. And there's nothing wrong with selfishness. Not correct, right selfishness, which there is such a thing. Absolutely, positively. And love for others is all about love of self. If you love yourself, that love extends to others who share the virtues that you possess. That's how love works. And that's how relationships work. And that's how you form stable relationships and stable bonds with others. By being able to identify those people who share the same virtues you have, thereby making the most compatible match, both with friends and with life companions. which, by the way, is one of the reasons why people are so bad these days at locating such people that would make long-time commitments. Now, number one, they value things that are not virtues, and number two, they do not have the self-knowledge required to know what their virtues are, if they have any at all. Hence, number three, they cannot locate others who share what virtues they may possess, if any. So, that is why virtue is so important and why it is very different from traits, which are simply things that are accidents of birth. Virtue are the qualities that make us quality people, that make us who we are. That's why they're so important, and especially important when it comes to forming long-term, stable, meaningful bonds with others. Because those bonds are based upon that which makes us who we are. So, now I'm going to open the phones or the Skype. You can Skype, you can phone, depending on where you are. If you're in Zimbabwe, you might not want to call a U.S. number, so you might want to use Skype. You'll see in the upper left-hand corner there that you have a number, Skype, and you can also email me with future subjects for the show at admin@therealistphilosopher.com. Next show, I'll put that up there on the left. You can email me with subjects you want me to address, or you might want to be a guest on the show to talk about a problem you might have, or an issue you want to further explore and get my insight on. And the best way to do that is to send me an email instead of just calling in. But yeah, let me open up the phone lines here. Let me find Skype. Okay. So if you'd like, contact me and let me know what you consider virtue. We've got missed calls, unknown person. Okay, well, I told you guys. So I'm sorry that you were missed, but you can call in now if you'd like. Again, I said at the beginning of the show that I wanted to go into detail about virtue, and then now I'd open up the phone lines. I'd like to get your views and opinions on, well, what do you consider virtue? What are your views on virtue? Do you think women have essentially abandoned virtue? Do they even know what virtue is anymore? And do you think the same goes for men? Do you think the entire Western culture has abandoned the idea of virtue, that they don't even really know what it is anymore? If so, give me a call at 623-242-2517. That's 623-242-2517. You can also contact me via Skype at The Realist Philosopher. That's my Skype name, The Realist Philosopher. Also, if you appreciate my content, whether you're new or not, please consider donating. I get no money from YouTube. Nothing that I make is monetized. So it's you, my viewers. Yeah. Drank that coffee too fast. You, my viewers, who contribute to and make it possible for me to continue producing content. So if people don't donate, I can't continue to make quality content. So if you're so inclined to do so, please visit therealistphilosopher.com/donate. That's therealistphilosopher.com/donate. Looks like I missed 2 calls. Gosh darn it. Well, this is why I need the ability to put people on hold, right? Yeah, this is why why I need the ability to be able to put people on hold before I even start the show. Well, it's a new operation, you know. Shoestring budget and all that. So don't expect too much. The more people donate, the more I can do. I mean, yeah, all this stuff costs money, right? This live streaming software costs several $100. Speaker costs a fortune. Everything costs money. Bandwidth costs money. Nothing's free. Of course, nothing's free in this world, right? Even in relationship, there's currency, right? And that currency is virtue, by the way. Relationships have their own currency, just like every kind of transaction in life. And with a relationship, virtue is that currency. So, you know, if you're in a relationship with somebody who has no virtue, but you do, well, you're looking at a parasite, baby. And they're going to suck you dry. There's no reciprocity in a relationship like that. So let me know what you think about the subject at hand. That's great. So people they try to call when I tell people don't call, right? And when I say do call, they don't call. Well, that's fine. I can just ramble on and on. All right, let me think a little bit more about virtue. So, you have to forgive me. I am sick. I did say that at the start. Got a phlegm issue here, so got my handkerchief in my lap, so you don't have to see me spitting out snot and shit. I'll go just saying it like that. Probably put an image in your mind. You know. So, what are your virtues? What do you value? Right? What do you think are virtues, and what do you believe people? Do people even look for virtue anymore? I don't think they do. You see, I think a lot of people believe that there's some kind of just, organic aspect to a relationship, like you're going to know what to do. It's just going to grow, from a seed, and it's just going to happen naturally, and you don't really have to know anything about how to nurture and make it grow and, what to do. They don't know. It just happens, and no knowledge involved. They don't need to know anything. It's just a relationship. That's normal. What do I have to know? Or no! Not at all. Good Lord. Human interactions are complex, okay? And people are complex. There's things that work and there's things that don't. And if you've studied history, if you understand people, you'll know that real, fundamentally strong relationships are based on virtues, shared virtues. This is reality. As a philosopher, I understand reality very well because I'm a practical realist. Now, of course, there's some philosophers out there who study philosophies like, relativism, idealism, solipsism. No, they don't understand reality. They understand make-believe very well, but not reality. Yeah. I know a lot about virtue. I've known a lot of people in my life who were virtueless people. It's very easy when you've experienced a lot of such people by contrast to, But, it's very strange. I guess there were a bunch of people waiting to call in at 10 or 9. What was it? 9. And since I wasn't connected, they just kind of gave up or left. I don't know why. Nobody out there has any thoughts on virtue? Really? Wow. Okay. But where do you think you rate? You need to ask yourself this, okay? My recommendation for any of you out there who have never heard this before, or this is new to you, I want you to sit down, and I want you to make a list of what you believe your virtues are. Should be easy, right? I mean, you're you. There's this conceit that people have that, oh, well, I'm me, so of course I know me. Really? What are your virtues? What's a virtue? What do you mean virtues? Well, define virtues, right? I mean, people are so lost these days in a haze of relativistic bullshit. They can't even agree on anything. They don't even know what the fucking definition of the word virtue is. What's a virtue? Oh, boy. So you ask them what their virtues are. Huh? I don't know. I mean, people can't even agree on the language anymore, so how can you expect them to explore such ideas with any depth? That's kind of the whole point, though, right? Self-knowledge is power. It makes you an individual and allows you to think for yourself. You know who you are. Other people can't manipulate or control you so easily. So you have to muddy the waters, obfuscate everything, create confusion, and thereby make it near impossible for people to look at anything in-depthly because they can't even identify things, so how the hell can they begin to really explore it? Applies to self as well. Virtue, what's virtue? What is your idea of virtue? I don't know, my idea of virtue, I have a different idea of virtue than you have, yeah. And nobody's able to find any real meaningful answers, so that's what's going on these days. So just so you guys know, sometimes I have a subject. And if I'm going to talk about the subject, I want to go in depth, and then I'll turn the phones on. Well, the phone, singular, to get your view. So the phones are not going to always be on automatically, right? And by the way, have you ever watched a call-in show? The way it generally works is they don't just like start taking calls. There's a subject, they discuss it, but of course those guys have like a fucking, guy sitting there on a fucking a board, and he's lining people up and putting callers on hold and shit. I don't have that. Fuck. Yeah, gotta get Windows 8 and then upgrade to Skype for broadcasters. So complicated. But I'll get there, but you have to be patient. Okay, so, but I think people are trying to fill in the blanks these days. They're blind. They're flying blind. So it's not surprising that they're stumbling around and latching onto things that are not actually virtues. They're mistaking traits for virtues and valuing things in people that are in no way, shape, or form positively developed, meaning acquired through action and diligence, like intelligence or beauty or height. It's very commonplace. Again, that's the reason for all this postmodernistic bullshit, right? That's the reason for this introduction of relativism into society, right? This moral relativism, this relativism everywhere, really. My truth, your truth. There's no truth. There's just what everybody else feels and thinks, and there's my truth, there's your truth, but there's no objective truth, right? Nobody can agree on anything. If there's no objective truth, people cannot agree upon and come together on any subject in any real way. It's meant to divide people, right? Hello? Is this working? Let me check. All right. I look ridiculous. These are my gaming headphones. They're good headphones, but yeah, they don't look so good. I need to get some earbuds or something, but the sound quality is not as good. I could get like a wireless, it would have like a Bluetooth audio. Okay. I'm old school though. I like the hard cable connection. All right, let me see here. Settings. You bunch of pussies. Yeah, not too many of you out there have the virtue of courage, do you? You're too afraid to call in. You thought I'd be a boob, but I'm not actually a boob. Yeah. Yeah, woe is you, right? Nah, I won't be too hard on you. Come on. I want to get my input. Want to get my insight into something. Want to express your opinion on virtue and how the lack of virtue in Western society has contributed to the degeneration of relations between men and women. Please feel free to call in and give me your view on that. Let me see if it's working.
Hello, welcome to Skype call testing service.
Oh, okay, it's working. It's working. Yeah, I guess maybe I should have opened up the phone lines at the very start, but I wanted to talk about virtue because it's something very important to me. The things that have real meaning in life, people don't focus on them anymore. They don't care. Ah, here we go. Oh, I think I know who this is. Hello. Hello. Uh-oh. We got a no talker? We got a low talker? Or is there something wrong with the Skype? It seems to be working. Hello? Fuck. Well, now I'm wondering. Let me go and check here. Hardware. Hello? Okay. Still can't hear you. Let me check hardware and sound. Manage audio devices. Hello? Hello? Can you hear me? Hello? Anybody there? Hello? I hear something intermittent in the background. Okay, so this person is... Shit, how do I... Hello? Hello? For fuck's sake. It's getting annoying. So I don't know who's calling me, but they're playing some kind of fucking joke.
Hello, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
I know I say I will not call back, but nobody's talking to you.
Yeah, that's
so
fine.
I kind of decided to call you.
That's fine. That's fine. There were a couple missed calls, but they tried to call when I specifically said that wait until I'm done my exposition on virtue, and then I'll open the phone lines. But apparently, maybe they showed up late and didn't hear that. But you know, if they'd have stuck around, they would have known because they would have been listening when I said, "Okay, now you can call." So did you hear my? So what do you think about virtue? Huh? Do you agree with my assessment in regards to the effect that lack of virtue or lack of valuing virtue has had on Western society?
Yeah, I do agree completely. Yesterday I've been on a date to see what I think about virtue. They don't know what it is. I think it's about beauty and smoking. I'm
gonna have to stop you. The connection is very bad. I can barely hear you. Are you on a cell phone?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me better now?
Slightly. Are you on a cell phone?
I'm on a cell phone.
Ah, that's why. Yeah. Okay. Boy, I wish you had a landline. That would be great, but oh well.
Just talk about virtue.
I can't hear you. A Sithanet. All right, I'm gonna have to disconnect. You're not listening to me. I'm sorry, Sithanet. I had to disconnect you. You weren't listening. You were just talking over me, and nobody could hear you. The connection is horrible. It's actually worse to have you on the line. It's a horrible connection. I can't hear you. It's very distracting. Why don't you use Skype? See, this is why. Okay, so if you want to contact the show, you can use your phone. But I suggest, obviously Sithanet is not close to a cell tower. It's best to use Skype. You can use your phone. I've had people I've talked to on cell phones. It works fine. But of course, Skype would be better. I know lots of people out there don't like it because they believe it slows their computer down a lot. That was 10, 15 years ago. With modern day computers, it doesn't fuck your PC up. By the way, old Skype ran in the background. New Skype doesn't run in the background. Oh. All right, we have a caller. Hello, caller.
Hello.
Yes, who is this?
This is Raymond Reyes. How are we doing today, Mr. Philosopher?
Raymond Reyes. That name sounds familiar. Is that...
yeah, Facebook.
Is it Jim or Jim's brother? I forget. It's Jim?
Jim's brother.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Because I know Jim is Jim, and he's Raph. And so how you doing? Yeah, we've never spoken before, but it's nice to finally hear from you.
Great. I have a question for you.
Sure.
All right. What virtues should you look for in women? Because women today don't have any.
It's kind of hard. As I was saying, needle in a haystack. It's not looking for, it's more about, all right, first of all, what you should look for depends on the virtues you possess, okay? So generally speaking, whatever you value. But again, you're going to have to, so asking me what virtues you should look for is like asking me to make you my favorite meal. what would matter to you is your favorite meal. I would, you best know what your favorite meal is. If you're asking me to make your favorite meal, but I don't know it, right? So I mean, what I'm trying to say is that virtues vary from person to person. I mean, there are general virtues that we share, and there are some people just don't have very many, if any, at all. This is true. Vacuous people who focus on the surface and are very shallow and have no self-knowledge and don't care to and only care about material things and don't have any virtues. Sure, there's people like that. But insofar as what you should look for is what virtues you possess. And what are those virtues, you have to ask yourself. I mean, do you know what those virtues are?
I mean, me personally, I'm just looking for, virtue. I'm looking for, a lady that acts very feminine. That comes from a two-parent home.
You just struck off half the women.
Pardon me?
You just struck off half the women with that second criteria. The two-parent home.
No, well, I'm just looking for, loyalty, respect, honesty.
Sure. Right.
Yeah.
Oh, well, okay.
But,
so those are some basic ones, right? I mean, that's not all of them, though, right?
Yeah.
So that's what you're looking for. But that wasn't my question. My question was, what are your virtues?
My virtues.
Yes. You see, because, again, if you want to create some kind of stable relationship with someone else, they have to share the same virtues you have. They have to value the same things you do. Otherwise, there's no connection there. This shit about opposites attracting, it's not true. It's something that's been spread by TV and feminism to keep people apart. Opposites don't attract. They repel. They don't work because they're opposite, right?
Yeah.
You toss
so
water
my
on...
virtues, I would say honor, courage, forgiveness. I can,
Okay. These are kind of generic. I mean, those are some of the ones I said. I mean, do you have any that are more specific to you, right? I mean, maybe the ones you value are the same ones I valued. You just hadn't thought about it much until I started talking about them. And then you recognize some of the things that you value in my words and describing them. But if you want to realize, if you want to understand what you should look for in somebody else, first you have to understand yourself. Right, because what we're looking for in a connection with somebody else can only be achieved by knowing and identifying
ourselves.
Yeah, sure. Because if we don't know the things we value, how could we know how to find people who share those same virtues?
Yeah.
So that's the question you have to ask yourself. Oh, go ahead.
No, well, yeah, you are completely right, and what I personally, my virtues, I can say that, I'm very, loyal to my partner, and I plan on, just like having fun and just building an empire with my mate, but. Nowadays, seeing all these ladies is like, I feel as though, we should just, pump them and dump them.
Okay, so first of all, don't take this the wrong way. I'm going to have to be a little critical. Your grasp of your own virtues seems limited. I could be wrong, but I think that your own self-understanding could be much better. I mean, if you ask me to tick off my virtues, I can not only tick them off, I can tick off every single shortcoming I have as well. I know myself very well. It doesn't take any thought. It's just, I know. I put a lot of thought into it. I've done a lot of exploring of self. I have perfect self-knowledge. The majority of people do not. There's no dark recesses within me where shit's hiding that I haven't looked at. It's, oh, what's that? I've never seen it before. No. So I'm not saying that you have to have that level of self-awareness and self-knowledge, but I am saying that I think that you need to put a little more time into understanding yourself before you
Yeah,
can.
I was gonna ask you, how do you know yourself better? Like, how can you, like, what should I, like, is there anything that I can possibly, try to, work? I mean, like something that you can tell me that can help me to work on myself better. Cause I guess you're right. I'm kind of being stuck there when I'm asked, myself.
Right. I mean, how can you expect to locate somebody that would make a good match for you if you don't know yourself that well? So my advice to you, it's actually nothing complicated. It's nothing like, self-help gobbledygook that you would hear from Deepak Chopra trying to fucking talk about quantum physics, and the fucking guy doesn't know the first thing about quantum physics. What mumbo-jumbo comes out of that fucking guy's mouth? No, look, people don't often enough sit down and just think about themselves. It's like when you go to solve a problem, what do? You sit down and you think deeply about the problem. What's the cause of the problem? What's the root source? What is being caused by that problem? Are the symptoms of the problem, or are they the problem themselves? What's the cause of the root source that is the problem? What created it, and how best to understand what created it will lead to helping me better solve whatever the problem might be. So understanding is key. So if you want to know yourself, if you want to understand yourself better, you have to start at ground zero. Fundamental principles. Who am I? Who am I? What is it that makes me me? What are the things that I enjoy? What are the things that I value? What are my values? It starts with asking simple questions. I mean, the questions are simple, but the finding the answers are, it's not necessarily an easy thing to do. It'll take time and, a lot of it to get to a point where you could claim perfect self-knowledge. But if you want to find somebody of quality, if you want to locate somebody who doesn't complete you, right? Because you should be complete as a person. Yeah, you don't need anybody else to complete you, but who complements you, I should say, then you're going to have a much higher level of self-awareness before you can locate such a person. Because otherwise, you're kind of just stumbling around half blind at best. You're going to get hit by a truck eventually. And that truck is going to be some nasty broad who has a fucking kid and then, leaves you for, tons of alimony and takes half your shit. So, yeah, a lot of
that.
No, absolutely not. The real reason men have so many problems today, a fair amount of it is because they're not practicing enough discernment. They're not discerning enough because they don't have the self-knowledge to know what they should be looking for in somebody else. I mean, it's really a conscious effort to a certain extent. I mean, if I go out with some broad, I'm very conscious and aware. I'm not nitpicking or looking for bad shit, but if a fucking red flag pops up, it's like, oh, okay, I've made note of that. She's probably not for me. Next. And, it's very easy to spot these people. But if you spot somebody who has the certain qualities that you want, then you'll invest more time in them, and you'll value the relationship more, and you'll nurture it. And as time passes, you'll gain a higher level of knowledge and understanding of who they are, which, by the way, is why I suggest to people that if you're looking for something meaningful, don't sleep with this broad on the first date. Now, pumping and dumping, fine. I mean, if you run into some broad that's a terrible human being, objectionable person, and that's all she's good for, that's fine. That's all she's good for. She's decided that. So use her for what she's decided she's good for. Okay? But if you run into somebody who you believe might be of quality, give it some time. Because it takes time to really get to know people. It's not just something that happens overnight. Now, if you have, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was gonna say that it's like I would love that, but it's hard because in the area that I live in, all the women just have tattoos. They're ghetto, they're single mothers. They smoke, they drink, they love partying, So it's like many women, they're not marriage material, and then once they hit, when they want to be marriage materials, they're gonna be, old. used. Is basically like having like something used already. You know, like they're gonna be old and they're basically old sluts that been used in all their 20s.
Yeah, use tissue paper. Yeah.
So it's like, it's hard to even think about. Do I even really want, a mate? So it's just, I don't know. I'm all kind of crazy in that. But
no, I understand what you're saying. The women in the area that you're in are not. And by the way, if you're looking for marriage, I'm going to be honest. It's probably not a good idea. I assume.
Oh no, yeah. Excuse me. Let me go back. I remember. Marriage is out the way. Alimony, no none of that. I remember. Excuse me. No, but it's like we would like to have someone to have like a nice relationship with.
Sure.
And it's crazy how women nowadays they're trying to do what I guess men was doing to them, like cheating on them and having several mates and stuff like that.
Again, sorry to interrupt, but that's part of the perverse caricature that women have developed in their minds of what men are actually like, what men are like compared to what they're really like. Because, again, the whole goal of feminism is not equality between the sexes, but female superiority and to keep men and women apart.
Yeah.
That's the real goal.
Yeah.
Okay, so
yeah,
it's in feminisms and feminists, the majority of whom are big fat land whales who can't get a man, so they want everybody else to be as miserable as they are. The majority of them want to press this perverse view of men that says, yeah, they're all dogs. They're all horrible. You can't trust them. Don't ever put your trust in a man. They're all toxic and evil. That's in their interest. That's the way they want most women to see men. But the majority of men are not like that, or they certainly were not like that for the majority of history. So I just don't agree with it. I mean, I know you're saying it just to try and make a point, but I personally was never like that. I don't think most men are. I think most men would like to be in a long, stable, committed relationship with a good woman, right? The problem is...
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I would like to be in a long-lasting relationship with a woman, but seeing how the women are nowadays and seeing through other experiences how, like, for example, I'm young, I'm just trying to pump and dump right now, but I be pumping and dumping women that have men, and it's crazy how, like, they're not trustworthy,
Yeah.
So it's like,
right. These are women with no virtue. They have no self-respect. So you're going to be treated how you treat yourself. So again, if you have no virtue, you're going to be treated as a person who has no virtue. So I don't have a problem with you pumping and dumping these broads, because that's what they want, because they are virtueless people. If you want respect from others, you need to respect yourself. If you're going to put yourself out there as nothing more than an object, expect to be treated like one, and don't blame the other person for using you for what you're putting yourself forth to be. It's not their fault.
Yeah.
It's your fault. Take some responsibility for your actions. Assess who you are. Do a little inventory of yourself and realize that you have agency. It's not men's fault that you're unhappy. It's your fault because you've embraced this feminist ideology that tells you, I don't need no man. I need a man like a fish needs a bicycle and all that bullshit, right? So, it's when it comes to virtues, again, my advice to men is to work on yourself. And in the process of improving self, you'll learn to know self better. But you have to make a concentrated effort to do so, right? Just like see, this is a conceit people have. They think because they are them, I'm me, so I know me. Why would you think that? They just never think about it. People don't stop to think, do I really know myself? They just assume, they don't even ask that question. How many times have you asked yourself, do I know myself? Before listening to my content anyway, did you really sit down and say, do I know myself at all? I mean,
Mr. Philosopher, you just gave me you gave me a homework that I have to do now. So I will sit down and I'll personally, just
pen and
think
paper
about it.
Yeah, and
Pen and paper, yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but I mean, you should not only, and I mean, I recommend people do this in such a systematic way for most things, but especially about yourself. Sit down, make a list. So things I value, virtues that I possess. Do the things that I value match up with the virtues that I have? And if they don't, then I'm trying to find things in others that I don't possess in myself. Therefore, my expectations are unrealistic. So do I need to change myself? Is this something I'm happy with? Would I be willing to compromise? And would I be okay if somebody I was looking for as a long-term partner didn't have these traits? And if not, then am I willing to myself change and develop these virtues that I do not have? So there's a lot of things to think about beyond self-knowledge because, for example, women, they have unrealistic expectations in a lot of cases. You know this, of course.
Yeah.
We get some big fat land whale. She wants a man that's 6'2", six-pack abs, makes $100,000 a year, drives a Ferrari, and she's a dog. She's a 2 at best, right? And she wants a 10. So women have these very unrealistic expectations, and they never look in the mirror to see, okay, do I have the matching virtues that would essentially qualify me for having such a wonderful person? And
Mr. Philosopher.
Yes.
I have to go because I'm currently working right now. I'm in traffic, but I appreciate everything you have told me, and I will sit down and I will do this homework. If I can get back to you, next live that you do,
sure.
I'll be more gladly to tell you, or at least
let me know. Forgive me. Let me interrupt. Yeah. Get back to me Monday or Tuesday or whatever when you're free, and let me know what progress you made. Let me know what kind of epiphanies you had, if any. What kind of realizations you might have had in regards to your expectations as compared to the virtues that you discovered you had or didn't have, but you still had this expectation of another to possess what you did not. So let me know what kind of soul searching you do and what kind of answers you come up with. I think the viewers would find it very interesting and instructive, and I think it would make for a good conversation.
Thank you so much. Have a great day, sir.
And thank you for calling in, man. I appreciate the call. It was fun. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
All right. Have a good one.
So that was the brother, one of my, he's a longtime listener as well. I think his brother turned him on to my show. His brother's an even bigger fan, maybe. I don't know. But they're both big fans. So yeah, that's actually a very good idea. You need to make an inventory of yourself, right? You would do this in any other area of your life. I mean, when you balance your checkbook, you sit down, you run the numbers. Do they add up? Does it balance? But do you do that with yourself? I think who you are is a hell of a lot more important than that. I mean, balancing your checkbook's pretty fucking important, of course. You need to know how much money you got in the fucking account, of course. You don't want to overdraft, but you see my point. We put so much time and effort into things that are external to self that are kind of trivial compared to who we are, what makes us tick. Yet we very rarely, most people, invest very little time in getting to know oneself and being aware of who we are, what makes us tick, what virtues do we possess. And so is it any surprise that divorce is out of control, that the marriage rate hasn't increased since 1970, since the introduction of what I would call, feminism, because feminism in and of itself is radical. Okay, don't give me this bullshit about first wave, second wave, third wave. What a bunch of crap. Feminism is feminism, okay? It's a death cult. Nothing more. It's a Marxist death cult designed to destroy Western civilization from the ground up by first destroying the family. That's how you destabilize a nation. You attack the family unit. So it's no real surprise that people aren't able to get together. I mean, besides the evil, horrible influence that the feminist ideology has, people don't know themselves anymore. No self-knowledge, lacking self-awareness. So how the fuck are you going to find anybody else, be it a friend or a life mate, that is going to be a long-term stable relationship. So not just for Raymond, not just for him, but all of you should sit down and make an inventory not only of your virtues, but of your expectations of others. Do they match up? Are you really being realistic in the things you're seeking from others? Like we have all these gold-digging broads out here in the world today, especially in the Western world, that are seeking the top 20% of men, but they have no virtue. I want a man with tons of virtues, but I have no virtues. I bring nothing to the table, except these big tits and the tight ass that I got through liposuction, but so, he should pay out the ass, right? These are not virtues, right? She wants virtues, and in exchange, she offers no virtue. So you have to ask yourself, and you might come to some uncomfortable conclusions. You might come to the conclusion that you have less virtue than you actually realized, and that's oftentimes why people don't take a close, hard look at themselves, because they're afraid of what they'll find. They're afraid that they might discover some truths about self that are uncomfortable, that they didn't want to know. Sometimes truth hurts. That's reality. You have to red pill yourself to self before you can red pill yourself to reality as a whole. Because if you're deluded about who you are, how the hell are you going to shake free of that delusion and see the world for what it really is? Let alone identify other people who would make good friends, good companions for life. So sit down, make a list of your virtues, the things you value, the things you expect from others, and see if they match up. See if you can even make a list. Is it difficult for you to do? When you ask yourself, what virtues do I have? Who am I? What makes me tick? What makes me, me? Are you able to answer that question at all? Or do you just sit there with the pen and a blank piece of paper for half a fucking hour thinking, shit, I really don't know a fucking thing about myself, and this is a very uncomfortable exercise for me. I think I might want to stop doing this because I don't feel comfortable. Yeah, oftentimes doing new things isn't comfortable. Go and try to run fucking 20 miles and you never run before. See how well you do. Probably drop dead from a fucking heart attack. Of course. Everything's difficult at first. Nothing's easy right out the gate. It takes some time. It takes some practice. My advice is to persevere. Don't let the discomfort get in your way. Don't let the initial lack of answers stop you from continuing to think long and deeply about this. And eventually, you will find answers. And I think I might talk more about this in my next live stream about finding those answers. And again, generally speaking, my live streams will have a subject which will last 20 to 30 minutes, and then I'll open up the phones for callers. So don't just rush to call in right when I connect at 9 o'clock New York time, because the phones aren't on. I'm expanding on the subject so that you'll have something to comment on, and so that the listeners will get your 2 cents worth, and so you'll get the full effect and the full context of what I'm talking about. It makes for a much better show. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed. If you'd like to support my content and my work, please feel free again to visit my website, therealistphilosopher.com. And if you'd like to donate, feel free to visit therealistphilosopher.com/donate. I could really use your support. So please consider doing so. I have 2 forms of support, a once-a-month donation and a once per podcast. I'm posting this show on Patreon thrice a week as a pay per episode, as a way for those who are really, really devoted fans to donate. So you could donate like $1 a podcast or a live stream or something, and so there'll be like $12 a month. So kind of like a subscription deal. Or you could just donate $1 or $2 a month. So I have 2 channels. And all the information is there at therealistphilosopher.com/donate. You can also subscribe to me on Twitter and Facebook. I think I belong to every freaking philosophy group on Facebook. So I'm on there a lot commenting. So if you follow me there, you can view all my comments and get some more insight into myself and my views. And I'm also on Instagram, which I rarely use. I know I need to do so more. It's kind of a pain in the ass. And I also will be posting this on SoundCloud, where it's much easier to download if you'd like to do that. And you'll find all these links and others in the description for this live stream. And that's it. Again, Wait until I tell you to call in. I missed 2 or 3 callers while I was talking about virtue. But now you know. All right? So, that's it. I am the Realist Philosopher, and I wish you a good day. Take care.